Hello guys and welcome to my new video, and today I want to talk about the reason why Kamala Harris lost the 2024 election. Okay, there's many reasons, but this is primarily one of the many we're going to talk about today here in this video. Okay, so I would say the mainly reason why she lost was because she was not able to differentiate herself to Biden's administration, okay? Because everybody is different, and you can be in an administration of someone and disagreeing in many key issues. But when a journalist asked her, "Have you did whether if you were president, would you do something different than Biden did?" And that's a very important question because she said, "From the top of my mind, I cannot remember anything." That's what she said. And that is the moment where she lost the election because she was not able to show to the people who are already suffering from inflation, from the COVID recovery, and all of those stuff that somehow are not all to blame on Biden. Most of that are not to blame on Biden, war in Ukraine, all of that stuff. That is a very important aspect that even though he was not fault to Biden, Biden was the president and that somehow is responsible. Even though he's responsible politically speaking, he's not responsible in terms of the way things happen. But when you go, for example, to many of these states, and especially in the battleground states, you saw a lot of people that are worried about the economy. They're not happy with the current way of things, and saw in Kamala a way that she would do the same thing as Biden did, and Biden was the one who put us in all of those problems. And of course, that's not correct, economically speaking. That is how the average Joe sees things. Okay, and for example, if you go to many of the Latino population here, if you go to all of these countries that flipped it, and I'm always talking about Latinos because they went for Trump in a way. They did not win, but they got a lot of swing to Trump because look at Laredo. Webb County, I mean, Cleveland got 70-30. Why are those voters? Why did they vote for Trump? Because Trump said, I'm gonna cut the cost of things. We're gonna lower the cost of living. We're gonna make a secure border. And look, this is the border. So that's many of the issues the Democrats thought they have an advantage. That was not true, okay? Because Trump won Hidalgo, for example. It's a big county, and won Webb County. And many of those counties he only won because of the disaster that was the border during Biden's era. And Trump said multiple times that was great for voters. Look, this is Kamala's government as well, because Kamala was the vice president. She was not like an outsider. She was in the government. She could have done something, and that's what Trump said multiple times, and that went well for his message. Okay, because even in the suburbs, people who are trending away from Trump, they said, okay, let's give this guy a chance again because things were better when he was president, even though of the pandemic and all that stuff. And you can argue, but that is not true. Okay, and Obama said something that was very interesting. Trump is always bragging about his economy that was so great in comparison to Biden's, but that was my economy. That's what Obama said. That's what was my economy. I gave to him a lot of a great economy. Yes, that was true. Obama's economy was very great at the end of his mandate, and that is true, but that doesn't mean that Trump was not able to take away a little bit of this Obama success to his way, because he did that. Look at how things were in 2019 and 2018. Things were much better than now. Look at the guy who is president there, me, and look at the guy who is president today. It's Biden. So is all Biden's fault? Of course it's not, but that's the way politics work. And you go, for example, to New Mexico, when Kamala only got 6 and Biden 10. Another reason why you go to all of the counties alongside the border, and Trump got in 60, 70, and here 58, 61, 80% in some counties. You go to Arizona, same thing, especially in Yuma County. Trump was barely ahead in 2016 here. Now he won by 20. Again, the same thing. In many of these counties, in many of the suburbs that people thought Trump was lagging behind, Maricopa County, for example, one of the biggest counties in the whole country, and Trump did a better job turning out voters. People said sometimes, but there's not more Trump voters, but Trump did better in 2020 in terms of voters. I'm just saying in terms of voters, and he did better in 2024. You go to Las Vegas, you go to Nevada, for example. What happened here? The pandemic, all of those problems. You got to Las Vegas, a lot of the tourism problem because people were not going to the casinos and to all of the entertainment part of Las Vegas. So people got a lot of bad stuff there. and a lot of bad climate. That's why people said in the housing problem as well in Las Vegas, which were, and it's still very bad. So people would say, let's give this guy a chance because things were better there. I could afford a home. And even though that is not true in terms of economically speaking, that's what people say. And for example, if you go, for example, to all of the things here, you go to Pennsylvania, and you go to many of these parts, Trump won bucks. For the first time in many years, a Republican won bucks. And he did better in Philadelphia because of the housing problem. He did better in New York because he was running in affordability, like Mondani did in some way. Look at Queens. Look at his margin in Brooklyn and Manhattan and Bronx, for example. In Bronx, Trump not even cracked 10 in 2016. Now he cracked 27 because of this is the most working class borough of New York, and Trump ran in an affordability port. And that was the reason, okay? It was not because Trump was very smart. It was because Trump identified the problems and he was able to run away in all of those parts. You go, for example, in Georgia. And even though Trump lost a little bit of ground in the suburbs, Trump did better where? DeKalb County, Clayton County. And that was important. All of those small red counties, people said, we were better before. And that doesn't mean this was correct, politically speaking, but it was correct in the ways people saw the elections. Also in North Carolina, same thing. So, as Biden won the election by almost 50,000 votes in 2020, I think it was around 50,000, even though it was a big win in the popular vote by more than 7 million votes, in the electoral college it was only about 50,000 or so. And that was the reason why this was a very tight election from the state started. But when you go, for example, to Illinois, 11 points. Look at Chicago, 77-20. It should be 80 plus for Kamala at worst. And it was not, okay? It was not. You go to Michigan, for example, dropping the turnout in Wayne County. That's also a very important reason. Why? Because Kamala was not able to differentiate from Biden in the very important aspects of the Israel-Hamas war. Okay, you can see here. Jill Stein in the state of Michigan was 0.8. Look at the percentage in Detroit, 2.4. She did a great job. So this, if you would say, but if all the voters from Jill Stein went to Kamala, that was not enough. Yes, but that was many of people that supported Palestine, and we got a lot of those support from the United States to Israel, were voting for Jill Stein, or were not voting at all. That's a very important aspect. So many of those were here in the 44,000, and many of other people were simply did not vote in the presidential one because they did not felt that anybody. And that's a very interesting thing. Let's just check. So this was 2.8 plus 2.7. That is 2.8, 2.7. Let's just go here and check something. 2.8, 2.7. We have less voters in the Senate. It's normal. I just want to compare if the senatorial candidates were able to do something better than Kamala, but no. In that case, no. But in terms of senatorial candidates in Michigan and Wisconsin, the Democrats were able to win both, even though, of course, in Pennsylvania, McCormick won, but in those two, the Democrats won, and then Kamala lost. Because that is a problem with the candidate, not a problem with the policy. And I suspect the reasons, if you enumerate all of those, are the Hispanic voters, not happy with the cost of living, not happy with the border, even though they are own immigrants, but not happy with other immigrants coming in, which is interesting if you think about. Also, the Israel-Hamas conflict, and now a war, whatever you want to call it. Very important also for the Democrats. Harris were not able to catch those voters, to catch those Arab Americans that voted for Biden in waves. Were not able to do that. A lot of minorities that felt the Democratic Party were disconnected from reality. You saw that in New York, in many of the black voters' precincts, okay? And many of those people that voted for Trump in massive numbers, even though Trump lost like the black vote by 80-20, but he did much better in comparison to 2020 and also 2016. He did better with minorities. And also the suburban voters, even though they were trending in the opposite direction of Trump, they did slightly better, and they were able to vote still for Trump, and Trump was able to hold the margins, but though he did not improve in substantial ways, but also he was able not to lose anymore, and that was very important. So this is the reasons why Kamala lost. Kamala was a terrible candidate, politically speaking. She was not able to energize the voters. She was not able to differentiate herself from Biden, and that was the reason why she lost the election. Okay, guys? This was the video. I hope you have liked the video. Don't forget to subscribe and leave your like, and we'll see you on the next. Thank you.